Welcome to Moving Through and Beyond, a podcast dedicated to sharing inspired journeys of redefining life, vision, and purpose after immense hardship and grief. My goal with this podcast is to give you hope and to let my guest journeys inspire you to make the choice to keep looking up. I'm your host, Carey Conley. Hi, everyone. This is Carey Conley, the host of Moving Through and Beyond podcast. I am so excited to always bring to you people who new and old friends. This is a somewhat new friend of mine that I'm bringing to you all. She just has a really great story to tell and is really one of the most inspiring people in my life right now. You are just crushing it, Erica. So this is Erica Rasmussen, you guys. Thank you for being here, my friend.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, Carey.
Yeah. First of all, I asked Erica how the weather was where she is because she lives in Gunnison, right?
Yes.
Colorado. I'm from Colorado, if you know anything about this. This is like the middle of nowhere kind of thing. And the weather that you've been putting up with, oh my gosh, craziness.
Yeah, it's been a big winter and I'm ready for spring.
Yeah. Well, I'm sitting in beautiful Arizona right now and cannot tell you how grateful I am for that. So you need to come this way, right?
We should have done this in person.
Yeah. Well, next time, definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. So Eric and I met just about, a little over a year ago, and through a company that we both are involved in and called ULA. I've mentioned this to you all before. It's a resource tool that I recommend people use if you really struggle with getting your vision out of your head and onto paper and executing goals. And we met at a convention there. And I've heard you speak a couple times on the stage there. And I just wanted to bring you all in because Erica is so good about being so vulnerable and transparent, especially for people who are struggling with any kind of depression, suicidal thoughts, and so on. So Erica, just real quick, just tell me a little bit about your upbringing. Where are you from? Where'd you come from? All that.
Yeah, I grew up in Connecticut, kind of halfway between New York City and Boston. I won't say which baseball team's my favorite, but I'll root for everybody. And yeah, grew up in a very suburban place and had a very supportive, loving family that encouraged me to, really go after whatever I wanted to go after.
That's great.
Yeah, graduated high school early, went to college early, kind of that overachiever type of person that sometimes puts a little too much pressure on herself.
Uh-huh. You think? There's just a few of us out there running around.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad I'm not alone.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you glad that you went to school early? I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, I really didn't fit in high school. It just was not my jam. By junior year, I had crafted a plan, even wrote the letter for my parents to pull me out of high school early. And so senior year, I spent the mornings in high school, the first half of the year, and then went to like a local community college in the afternoon. And then by January, I had already moved up to college. So yeah, that for me was a decision that I wanted to do to like put myself in the right environment to be able to thrive more.
Yeah.
I just was kind of miserable in high school. And I think it's important for people to realize that if they feel miserable in high school, they're probably not alone.
Yeah. Well, thank you for saying that because, a topic that I am involved in with a lot of people right now is what's happening inside our school system with the kids. It's become really kind of my mission to make some big changes there. You and I both know it's just not a great place anymore for kids to go if it's not a healthy environment. And I think, number one, you're so blessed that you had parents that supported you in making this decision because sometimes the parents are the ones that are saying, you need to follow the rules, do what they tell you to do, stick till the end. They could have actually said to you, Erica, you're going to really regret not having that senior year. Are you going to look back and think, wow, I shouldn't have jumped ahead so fast, right? But I'm glad that your parents allowed you to make that decision because you're right. I'll bet there are a lot of kids right now that don't feel like they fit into that world.
Totally. Yeah. Absolutely. And they're not alone for sure. They're definitely not alone.
Yeah. So it's good to, that you're also giving maybe somebody some thoughts around, wow, you mean I can make some choices here? I could leave?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we all have the ability to empower ourselves. And, it definitely took some sales tactics to encourage my parents to let me make this decision. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't just a, yeah, for sure. It was, okay, let's walk through this. Are you sure you want to do this? And, the night of senior prom, I was on a canoe trip in the middle of nowhere on a river in northern Vermont, and I was having a blast. And I was like, no regrets,
No
but like
regrets.
we have to think about, yes, the immediate and the long term and what's best for us. And I had the courage to ask my parents of like, hey, could this be a possibility? Like I think this is what's good for me. And they of course asked those parent questions too. But we all have to figure out what's best for us, and it
Yeah.
might not be our current situation, and that's why it's important to look at the options available.
Yeah. And again, I'm so grateful you keep saying that you do have options because I see so many times because now, because of my passion, Eric, of wanting to work with young adults and kids, I'm seeing so many of them so paralyzed in fear,
Stuck.
so afraid to make any kind of decision for themselves or, to go against the grain of what everybody told them to do. And that fear is just literally paralyzing.
And it can be really hard, especially in high school, right? We're still figuring ourselves out, and feeling stuck is not an empowering feeling. So it's like, all right, what can we do to get unstuck?
Right. I see also, Erica, and I want your input on this, on them feeling like okay, but what if I go do that thing and it doesn't work out? I'm going to be a huge failure. I'm talking to a couple of young adults right now that are making some life choices about a career or a job they're about to take. And they're not thrilled about making that choice, but they also financially need to make a move somehow, somewhere. But they keep saying to me, but what if it doesn't work out? They're so afraid that taking that job means they're going to be there forever. And that if they end up not liking it or leaving it or making a change, that means they've failed somewhere. Huge problem.
And failure can lead to some of the best victories. If we live in the world of what if, we hold ourselves back.
Yeah.
And so, we have to think of our lives as a linear progression. And
Yes.
the reality is we have time, but we also have to dabble in understanding, okay, you know what, I tried that job. That
Yeah.
taught me something, but maybe that's not where I'm going to be forever,
Right.
and be open minded.
So important. And you know what? I said to these gentlemen when I was talking to them, I said, guys, I'm almost 61 years old and I'm making some big life changes right now. And I could really go down the rabbit hole of regret, right? I just never should have moved here. I never should have let that house go. I never should, but you can't, there's nothing you can do about that. It was done is done. And it was a life lesson that I learned a lot from. And I also know, and this is the thing, the compassion piece is that I made the decisions I made at that time for the right reasons.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that I failed. It just means that, okay, that's what I needed to do at that moment and moving on. So they actually kind of laughed at me and said, you're 61 and you're still making all these changes. I said, yes, I am.
It's
And
about
it's okay.
ownership. Yeah,
Yeah.
taking ownership,
Right. Yeah.
whether you're 16 or 61.
Right. So tell me about your life now. What are you doing?
Yeah, so I'm a mom of 2 young kiddos. They're almost 5 and 6,
So
and,
cute.
yeah, it's a fun ages and a really fun time to, be with them, but then also balance out. I run a nonprofit that empowers, local youth in my community to enjoy time on snow, because we have a lot of it, a lot of months of the year, and then I also, run a marketing and communications consultancy and do life coaching, and I have a pretty aggressive running goal
Yes.
that I keep following and working on my own self, because it is about balance of our own goals, our family, and our health,
Yep.
both mental and physical fitness. And so, yeah, it's a crazy juggle, but I love it.
Yeah. Like I said, inspire me every day. I just watch you on social media and all the things you're doing and out running in 10 feet of snow and it's 0 degrees. Girl, I can't even get myself fired up to go to my gym where it's warm and I'm on the treadmill.
Yeah,
Seriously.
indoor workouts are beautiful.
Yes. Yeah. So talk to me about that. Tell us a little bit about why you got on this health mission, this running, why and what your
Yeah.
goal is.
So, I have a couple different goals. It all ladders up to completing 50 running races in all 50 states by the age of 50. And I'm about to run through state 5. And so I started this last fall after I really was honest with myself about what I needed to tackle in my own life. So right
Mm,
now I'm almost 100 pounds down from my highest weight. And running has been so good for my physical health, but also my mental health. You know,
mhm,
it is my outlet. It is where I get some of my best ideas and inspiration, but it's super helpful for me and been a really powerful tool in my own motivation and life balance. And so I have my first half marathon in about coming up this month in a couple weeks. And then I actually am now training for the New York City Marathon, so 26.2 miles, which will be crazy. That's a big goal. But I think the biggest thing is like, you know, I talked about empowerment earlier, but the more we empower ourselves, the more we learn how far we can grow, you know?
right, right. Wow. I'm gonna need to be at that New York City Marathon and just be at the finish line for you.
That would be
That is
so fun.
so amazing. So, so let's talk about the mental health piece because I do know the running has helped you a lot with that.
Yeah.
And, I heard you stand on stage last December at an ULA convention and declare that, about a year ago, you were seriously thinking about ending your life. And it wasn't the first time. So do you mind sharing a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard, right? And
Yeah.
talking about this is you know, my blood type is B positive. So I love being chipper and happy, and that's what a lot of people know me as, but the reality is behind all that, I faced a lot of struggle growing up. You know, I had an eating disorder. And
Mm,
really, you know, I'd stopped eating in 5th grade. I was bulimic in high school and college.
mm,
I was, you know, fought depression and anxiety pretty hard, and then battled postpartum depression after having my daughter about 5 years ago. And I think with that, through all of this, the pressure built up, you know? And so for me, I had a rough go in college, and then I had a rough go last year, about a year ago, where the pressure that I was placing on myself was just too much.
mm,
And it's like, you know, if life is like a giant buffet, I was trying to scoop everything on that plate, and that plate just wanted to shatter. And,
mhm,
you know, that is not a good place to be in. You know, ambition and motivation and goals are beautiful, but it is a delicate juggle. And, you know, understanding how much we realistically can fit on that plate without, you know, feeling like we are going to break. And so,
right.
yes, I mean, I was really crushing it with my goals last year, super successful in business and life, and you know, my own weight loss journey, like I was shrinking, and you know, by all accounts it looked like, wow, you know, she's got it all together. It's like, no, actually I don't. Um and that pressure had escalated so much at the end of last March that I did write a suicide note, but I couldn't sign it. And the reason I couldn't sign it is because of one of my biggest mentors, because I was checking in with him every Monday on my fitness journey. And there's that accountability piece. And, you know, we have to surround ourselves with people that want to see us win. And
Mm,
I had remembered that he had told me a month prior, like, Erica, I believe in you more than you'll ever know. And no one had ever told me that before, you know? And yes, I know people did, but those words really, you know, helped me a lot and helped me through knowing that like I had someone to be accountable to. And,
mm,
you know, I I love my kids, I love my husband, I love my life. And sometimes in those moments it can be really hard, but when it gets really hard in those moments, we have to, you know, find gratitude and grace in understanding that, okay, you know what? I'm trying really hard. I'm giving it my best. There's a lot that is good. And
yeah,
although things can be really tough, like it's almost like storms that will pass. You know, we
yeah,
all have storms in life, and we have to, you know, sometimes it's more than an umbrella and a poncho, right? Like we have to take cover. Maybe it's finding that tornado shelter. But the reality is taking that breath, giving ourselves grace, and really understanding, you know, all the good amid the storm is so critical to, you know, moving
right.
beyond.
Okay, there's so many things I want to ask you here. So I want to go back to, where do you feel it all started for you, that you started piling on so much pressure on yourself, especially in school? Was it something that happened in school, things that were said to you, how you were treated? Um, because this is, obviously losing my husband and my son to suicide. People ask me all the time, like, what happened? Because those two were the last two men on the planet that you would have thought would have been having these thoughts and these issues, right? And people ask me what were the signs, what caused it, and honestly, there I have speculation, but I can't pinpoint for sure. So and I'm very, very concerned about what's happening in the schools right now, as I mentioned. So, is there something that you can enlighten us on that happened, or just how you're feeling around your relationships with people?
I always struggled to fit in growing up. I
Mm,
was kind of the one that marched to the beat of my own drum, and you know, at that high school graduation that I went back to walk for, after some college, I had a friend say, "Wow, Erica, you've always impressed me because you have, just kind of done your own thing, and that's awesome." And in my mind, I just felt like I was different. I felt so alone, and so kind of that loneliness kind of is hard,
mm,
right? No one wants to feel alone. And I
yeah.
didn't realize that people were looking up to me as a leader. I was like, stressing out because I didn't, I wasn't in the cool club. I did a lot and was, super great at achieving, good grades and, making the varsity softball team as a freshman and all that stuff. But like for me, I just felt like in my own little world on my own little planet, and that was hard. And so, like, for me, I had achieving to fall back on. But,
I
like,
see.
if that's our motivation when we don't achieve, it can be super, super hard. And so,
Right.
I think that that fact of like, we're all different and we're all beautiful. And we have to realize that, like, we don't all have to just fit in. What's cool is what makes us different, And so we have to embrace what we do show up with and who we show up as and not try to be somebody that we're not.
Yeah.
I think if someone had just told me that when I was in high school, I would have probably given them a big hug and said, thank you. But I'm figuring this out in my 30s. So if you're in your teens and you might be different and feel different and not feel like you're fitting in with, the crew that you wish you would fit in with or whatever, like just know like you're amazing and like embrace all that you are, not
Yeah.
what you're not.
It's so interesting that you're talking about the loneliness piece, Erica, because one of the other interviews I'm going to do today is a woman who sent me some statistics of things that are happening in our world right now. And you would think that the biggest group of people that had bigger loneliness issues would be my age group, right?
Yeah.
But the largest percentage, and the percentages are huge, are in kids.
Yeah.
It's just amazing to me. And I think, again, it's because we're still putting them through an educational system that makes them either follow along or feel like they don't belong. And now we have social media.
Yeah.
That's just like the little lovely cherry on top of the whole thing, making everybody feel like if you don't have it all together, like all these people making it look like they do, something's wrong with you.
And those are all filters, that's
Yeah.
that's just one little glimpse. Social media is not everything, and systems are hard, especially and when we have to follow a certain progression, and that's why I wanted out of the system,
Yeah.
you know
Yeah. Well, and I love so much that you're talking about your mentor.
Yeah.
Um, he's become a mentor to me as well. This is the gentleman we're talking about, you all, is one of the co-founders of the company that I mentioned earlier on in this podcast called ULA. He's an amazing man that just has a huge heart, and he truly just wants people to live their best life. And the fact that you had just one person that you knew you were going to be accountable to the next day, and that you did not want to meet that's your anchor.
Yeah.
And I think everybody needs at least just one person they can be totally honest with.
And that's the thing, we have to be honest with others and we have to be honest with ourselves.
Right.
When that year anniversary hit me last week, it was really hard, and
Mm,
I was just like, hang on a minute, don't dwell in the past. Like, look at what, this past year has unfolded, and embrace that. And yeah, it can be a struggle at times. We're all
Mhm.
going to have those storms, but we have to surround ourselves with people that want to see
Mhm.
us win, because they're out there,
Right. Yes.
and it might mean, I learned in this past year that I don't need 100 friends. I can have a close couple, and I don't have to be all things to all people,
Right.
and so you talk about your front row, and I got serious in this past year about who do I want in there, and who maybe shouldn't be in the front row. And
Yeah.
that can be hard too, but being really
Yes.
honest with ourselves of like, actually, these people, they're my front row. That
Yeah.
is super, super important to make sure that we, have positive, empowering relationships. And if they're
Yeah.
not, you know, start with finding one. It isn't that we have to have a whole front row filled in a week. It's figuring out the right people in the right seats.
Yeah. What Eric is referring to you all is an exercise that I do with people in my vision workshop called the front row. And in a nutshell, what I do is get people to really take a look at who they are spending the most amount of time and energy and emotion with. Those are the people that you are allowing in your front row. And if they are not a 9 or a 10, meaning they are your biggest cheerleaders, they believe in you, they're encouraging you, they will, be there through everything, they need to be removed from that front row. And it's not easy to do. But especially, unfortunately, if they are friends that you've had forever and ever, or they might be family members, that's challenging. But yeah, they are the people that they can either take you up or take you down.
And
And
that's so, like, related to boundaries, right? And
yes,
like, boundaries are something that I've gotten really good at in the past year, because I've
yeah,
like asked myself, all right, what's different about this past year? Like a year ago was a pretty tough struggle for me. Like, what's been my recipe? And it's, boundaries, relationships, empowering myself, and then owning my choices.
right. Yeah, so good. So, how are you feeling you're doing now mentally?
Good. I mean, I think that it's funny because I don't know if you can hear the wind blowing like ridiculously outside, but like, it is stormy. The sky turned from gray to white, and it's just like, as I'm talking about the storms of life, like, it is storming outside. But the reality is, it's so related to life. Like, it's
Yeah.
gonna get windy. It's gonna get cold. It's sometimes is lonely, but the sun always does come out,
Mhm.
and there's that saying, right? Like, we wouldn't have rainbows without the rain,
Right.
And yeah, it takes a little sunshine to make them too, but like, we, have to realize that storms will pass. And I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned in the past year. And like, I had a horrible training run today. Whatever. I still ran, and so it's like, giving myself grace is a new tool that, like, I really love, because I didn't always do that. And I think, yes, it's important to have aspirations, but overachieving sometimes is not the healthiest. And so,
Right.
like, really reeling it in and prioritizing what matters most has helped me, and really gotten me on the path of like, yeah, you know what, sometimes it's going to be tough, but tomorrow's a new day, and
Right.
not being so gosh darn hard on myself.
You know what? And I love that you're saying that because we tend to do that, and we tend to really empower a culture around us to applaud us for being hard on ourselves, right? It's
Yeah.
all about, how many things can you juggle all at once and be super mom, have your business at home, run these races, right? But this message that you've said repeatedly about giving yourself a lot of grace is huge
Yeah. And
because
listening to our hearts,
yeah, yeah, because we do that for everybody else.
Yes.
Yeah,
Totally,
yeah,
and we have to pause sometimes and think like, "Hey, would I be saying this to someone in my front row? Would I say this to Carrie? Would I
hmm,
say this to one of my good friends? No. So
right.
then how come I saying it to myself? That
There's
internal dialogue needs to be, checked once in a
right.
while.
So, Erica, if there's anybody who's listening that they're struggling, girl, they're struggling mentally and just really feeling lost, what would be the first thing that you would tell them to do?
Breathe, find something that brings them joy. It might be doodling on a piece of paper. It might be going for a walk. It might be calling a friend. Sometimes you don't want to talk to a soul, and I get that. Been there, done that. But, changing the environment of when we feel really down and stuck and discouraged, what's one piece that we can, add to what's going on to promote positivity?
Right. Yeah, you are, like I said, just such a beacon of encouragement and inspiration.
Thank
So
you.
what's on your plans now? So you're going to run these races, you've got your business, but I know you have some other things in your mind that you want to do next. What do you want to do?
Yeah, I'm going to be launching a course this spring about being more positive. Really excited to bring that to individuals and teams because I think positivity is the root of so much for all of us. And it's, easy. It's very easy to say, oh, just be positive. But it's like, how do you actually be positive? What is the recipe for that? And,
Mhm.
how can we be more positive when things are tough? And that's something that I've really learned in my journey to focus on. Okay, like how can I look at this situation in a bright light, or
Yeah,
brighter, and
yeah,
that's so important. And so, yeah, a lot of running, a lot of positivity, and a lot of good time with my kids, making tons of memories.
yeah.
They're so little right now, and I know like when I blink that's gonna go by, and like I know I'm probably not gonna be their best friend forever. So while we still can play Barbies and hang out and I'm like really cool to them, like I want to definitely capitalize on that.
Oh, girl, take your advice and just take, yes, it goes so fast, right? No regrets.
No regrets.
No regrets. Well, I know that you've encouraged some people here today, Eric, and I just am so appreciative of you being so transparent and willing to share your story. I know it's going to help a lot of people, and you and I both know that I really have a passion for young adults and kids, and we'll probably end up doing some things together. And I'm looking forward to that. So thank you. I appreciate you being here today.
Thank you, Carey, for all that you're doing. You are amazing.
Well, back at you. So thanks everybody for watching this podcast. I'm Carey Conley, your host, and I'm just here to keep reminding you to keep looking up. If you found this episode inspiring or helpful, please share it with a friend or a family member. In order to be successful on this mission, I can't do it alone. Connect with me at www.careyconley.com, and don't forget to sign up for my weekly Do It On Purpose newsletter. Let's build this life-giving vision movement together to end this epidemic, save lives, and create purpose.